again. We'd like to make a special presentation today. We have a very rare interview with a World War I Canadian pilot, Mac McGill. We'll think you really enjoy it. It's very rare, and this is a special presentation we'd like to make.
Pup was an awfully good machine, but had limited horsepower. And so the Camel was brought out, which had a great increase of power, and it could operate up to about, say 17,000 feet. It wasn't very good over 17,000, it was sloppy over 17,000 feet because it was a narrow wingspan, about the same as the Pup, you see. But it was a very effective machine, the most in the war. It brought down more enemy planes than any other plane in the war. 1,300 planes the Camel brought down, more than any other machine in the war.
What was its armament?
Which?
The armament?
Well, it started out with one Vickers gun, and then eventually it had two Vickers guns.
And they were synchronized through the propeller?
Oh, it fired through the propeller.
Through the propellers.
Yeah.
And what was the body made up of? Was it metal or?
No, it was wood.
Wood, and what covered the body?
Well, fabric.
What made it such a wonderful aircraft?
Well, one thing was, it was a peculiar plane. Instead of the two planes being parallel, the bottom plane was changed level, and so in taking off, if you weren't aware of it, it killed a lot of pilots this way, because taking off, if you weren't prepared for what would happen, with the motor would have so much pull one way that it could just, instead of taking off, would take it right into the ground, you see. But you had to be prepared to put full rudder on against that when you took off in order to fly straight, you see. And actually, during the war, that was a good factor because a Camel would be dived on by a German plane, and he would suddenly let the plane switch around with this pull from the motor, you see, and fire, and he'd get the enemy plane before he knew it. It's like that. But it was very maneuverable. That was a big factor. Very maneuverable. Then, because it wasn't, the Germans brought out the Fokker D7 then, and over 17,000 feet, it was good up to 20,000 feet. So that put the Camel in a little poorer position. So eventually Sopwith brought out the Sopwith Dolphin, which had a wider wingspan. And we always took off and flew to 20,000 feet. Before we arrived at the front, at 20,000 feet. And of course we didn't have parachute, we didn't have heat, we didn't have anything, just in the cockpit there, you see. And it was pretty cold sometimes up at 20,000 feet. But we were maneuverable at 20,000 feet, but so was the Fokker. So that was our problem. We got mixed up with Fokkers. We had a real scramble on. But that's why they brought out the Sopwith Dolphin. But it had one bad defect. It was a V8 motor, an aluminum V8 Hispano-Suiza motor, which was pretty good when it was a new motor. But after a few hours, it depreciated. It was light material. And it got, at the end of the war, it got so that they'd be using half of a machine that had crashed and half of another machine that crashed and grind them together. And that's what we got for a Hispano-Suiza motor. With the vibration was so bad, you were always looking to see, well, if you're down low enough, where would I land if I have to land? Make forced landing, you see. But that was bad. So, about 3 months before the end of the war, they brought out the Sopwith Snipe, which had the same wingspan as the Sopwith Dolphin, but went back to the rotary motor, a stronger rotary motor. And they were That was very efficient.
The plane itself, this fabric and wood plane,
Yeah.
what happened to the plane if you had a heavy crush landing? You know, could you survive? I mean, you were belted in.
Oh yes. Well, unless you had a real bad, you always you'd injure the landing gear would give, but they got so that they had boxes with very heavy springs in it, and it got so they could make a pretty heavy landing and still not damage anything. But so you had to land on, preferably land on 3 wheels, 2 front wheels and the tailplane.
They tell me that the pilots had a code of honor. The Germans and the English, the Allied, had a code of honor. There was no dirty tricks kind of thing. If they saw you were in trouble, they wouldn't go in for the kill. They'd let you go down.
That happened early in the war.
Tell me about that.
Well, that just what you said just happened earlier in the war. If your gun wasn't working, the enemy saw that wasn't working, why you just wave them goodbye and take off. But that didn't happen after, well into 1916, the end of 1916. That was all finished with. You're up there to fight and fight to the finish.